The unarguable need to restructure Nigeria for efficiency, effectiveness and development is an idea that should engage the attention of all Nigerians as the new year begins. Now, even though President Muhammadu Buhari sought to downplay it in his New Year message by saying it is not Nigeria's immediate problem, nothing can be farther from the truth. A properly structured and run federation is the only way to a united and prosperous Nigeria, and the work must begin now. Well, with us in the studio to further talk more on the need to restructure Nigeria for efficiency, effectiveness and development is a freelance journalist, Yemi Saka. Good to have you on the News Hour.
Yeah, nice to be here. Happy New Year.
Happy New Year to you.
I beat it to it.
All right, so Mr. Buhari, Mr. President, in his New Year speech said, look, the question is not restructuring, but the process. So what's your reading of process? When he says process, what exactly are you reading into it? Because some are saying this is an outright rejection of restructuring by Mr. President.
The last time I was able to talk about restructuring, I said, I think somebody needs to tell Mr. President that restructuring is not balkanization of Nigeria. It should calm down. We need to restructure.
Balkanization, let me go back.
Balkanization means with this as in disintegrating Nigeria into either 3 or 6 geopolitical zones. We are not doing that. We need to restructure. There's no follow-up to restructure. I will cite instances. If you come to Nigeria, down south Nigeria, I mean down south, I mean southeast, southwest Nigeria, there's something called Criminal Justice Act. That's what we apply in our criminal jurisprudence and what have you. If you go to the northern axis, you see the Criminal Penal Code. So I don't see anybody from the northern part of Nigeria to have the moral standing discussion to go against restructuring, because whatever like there are some fundamental things that need us kickstart restructuring. And like my principal would say, if I was on his his New Year's speech, General Babangida, he said restructuring is what he believes in, and it's not going to solve all our problems, but it's going to set us on the right path, solving a lot of problems.
But what does Mr. President mean when he says process? Well,
I think, to me, to any layman's, the process should start the National Assembly. Because right now, restructuring is a constitutional issue, and the people that can touch the Constitution is the National Assembly. And once they give us they do the necessary amendments like you have in the Constitution, we start restructuring. They did something about local government, give local government autonomy. That's a step towards restructuring. And I say this, it's a common example to me. Brazil earns $3 billion annually from banana exportation. Yeah. Banana agriculture is a sector that is not regulated in this country, and for everybody in Nigeria, we know a region benefits more from agriculture, which is northern Nigeria. But from southern part of the country, as a governor of Osun State, I cannot touch the gold deposits in my state. As the governor of Delta State or Bayelsa State, I cannot sign an MOU with any company to go into oil exploration because it's controlled by the federal government. These are the imbalances that the restructuring will confront and correct.
But if the president insists that there is no debate, as it were, in terms of restructuring, where do we go from here? Do we think, is it like we are, well, on our own in this case?
We are not on our own. We have 109 senators at the National Assembly. And I think every constituency can hold its senator accountable. You know, it's senator accountable to them, and you tell him or her, this is what you should do at the National Assembly. You should bring this to the front burner. There are states in Nigeria that are favorably disposed to restructuring. The governors and what have you can work with the senators there to push, a strong front on the floor of the National Assembly, especially the Senate, that we need to restructure Nigeria. We need to. Restructuring doesn't take away the absolute power or powers from the presidency. The presidency will still. The executive of the presidency will still control foreign policy, the military and what have you. But there are some key things that have to be restructured.
But can restructuring happen by fiat? Is it possible? Or is it something that will evolve organically and by default like you have? Some people would say that states like Lagos, for example, are already putting in place they've already set the ball rolling because they're doing Lake Rise, for example, with Kebbi State, and some states
agriculture.
Agriculture, exactly. Ogun is doing the same. The pyramids, the rice pyramids are coming up and all of that. So is restructuring not already happening? So why are we making so much fuss about it?
You see, I will say this. I will cite an instance. If you look at last month, that's just a semblance of restructuring. Most states are finding their way around the issue, but for us to have
the traffic management agency,
yes.
But for us to have the best of restructuring, it has to go to the National Assembly. The president.
So you're on the same page with Mr. President, who says, "Look, the National Assembly can actually fix that problem."
Just tell us that that's the dead process. You see, it's this. I think from my own perspective, I think Mr. President, sorry for my choice, is scared of restructuring. And there's nothing to be scared about, because there's no region or there's no state in this country that doesn't have something to bring to the table. Zamfara is fantastically rich when it comes to solid minerals. Kaduna, same with Kaduna. Kano has a bit of agriculture, same with Bauchi. In fact, it's speculated that Borno State is a huge deposit of diamond and oil reserve. Oil reserve might not be enough to, of commercial quantity, but at least good enough to serve the region. So the Mr. President, it's not as if we're looking at a region that's been parasitic and while the other ones are the one bringing things to the table. Restructuring brings government and governance down to the people, closer to the people. Because I don't need, if restructuring can guarantee me access to basic things and let me say policing and what have you, I don't need to bother myself, sit on social media or go to Freedom Park demonstrating against the federal government.
Yeah, now you've mentioned that policing and all. You mentioned earlier on, you said there are some key things that needs to be restructured. Let's rewind back and talk about those key things that needs to be restructured in the government.
Yeah, you have to look at the form of governance, which you want to practice. You have to look at how the representatives of the people emerges. The independent candidates is one of them. You want to talk about how parties will represent, how candidates will emerge from parties. You have to talk about the controls of resources in such states and what have you. Are we talking about resource control? There was a time during the Obasanjo's regime we had offshore, onshore dichotomy. Probably you need to adjust that boundary again. So these are things restructuring is to talk about. When I talk about issues that restructuring can never touch, which any sane country would not do, you won't decentralize your military or counterintelligence or counter-espionage or espionage activities is controlled by the federal government. But other areas can be touched. Health has to be decentralized. Transportation has to be decentralized. I will say this. If you look at transportation, there's nothing stopping the southwestern states having their rail line, regional rails. And you have the federal lines connecting one region to the other. Whether you like it or not, that will solve transportation issue that comes with this long haulage on our roads.
On the roads.
So we have to restructure.
Okay, what manner of restructuring? That's the question that some are asking. What manner of restructuring? How soon should this restructuring take effect?
Well, it could take effect at this constitutional amendment going on, and once the president has sent to the constitution, the amended constitution, it becomes a law. It could take us 2 years. It could take us 3 months if they want to fast track it.
For a multi-ethnic, multi-religious nation like Nigeria, how easy would that really be?
I don't want to say, I have to say this, not that I don't want to say this. There's a fantastic document that Nigerians have abandoned.
Which is?
And that's the 1995 draft, because the draft of the 1995 constitution by late General Sani Abacha.
Okay.
Fantastic working document. Set us on the right path towards restructuring.
So you believe
by
that
military leader, and then you still have the problem of, no, it's a document that's put together by the military.
When people come with such arguments, I find it laughable, because the 1999 constitution was just an improvised or probably revised version of the 1999 constitution. And it wasn't the military that gave it to us, like they want us to believe. There was a commission headed by Justice Nikitobi, and they called everybody, and Afeni Ferry as a group rejected the 1995 draft because on the basis that they were not part of the confab, and they suggested that they would want to go for 1979 because it was tested, it has been used and it has been tested and it could work. That is why you find a lot of disconnect between the reality on ground and the constitution as we have in 1999.
All right, let's leave it at that for now, because if we go on and on, we'll continue to extend this.
But we just have to restructure.
Well, I think that's the bottom line here. Thanks a lot, Yemi Saka, freelance journalist, for your analysis so much.
You're welcome.
On the News Hour.